All right, good afternoon, everybody. It's Scott from HPW Huge Pop Wrestling. I have on the line Panther Rodriguez. How you doing, man?
What up? What up?
Going on,
The
brother?
Bronx is in the building. I always have to say that the Bronx is in the building. Yeah, man, I'm good, man. How you doing?
Doing really well. Doing really well. Representing Florida, so we're good.
That's what's up.
So yeah, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to sit down with you and just ask.
Oh, dude, I wanted to do that. Not very many people have asked me to, but I guess because I tend to shoot off the mouth a little too much as far as with the truth, about these shoot interviews. And a lot of guys, they expect you to sugarcoat certain things when it comes to like bookers and promoters, but I tend to go over the deep end on that.
And that's okay, man. That's all right. So I want truth, man. I will say this. I'm new. I've been a fan for a while, but watching when I was a kid and stuff. But I love hearing different viewpoints. So it's nice interviewing people. So that's especially old school guys. So I will just start you off with the first obvious question. So when did you become a fan of wrestling?
Wow. Wow. One day, I believe I ran into my mother's room. Oddly enough, just one of those days, and she was watching. And now, mind you, I was born and raised in New York City. Still on channel 47. I'll never forget it. And it was an old NWA show. Piper was on it, and I'm looking and I'm watching it. And back then, I used to collect wrestling magazines, so I would just follow because to me they were like, you know, uh, I guess in the movies you got your action heroes, but to me this is not just a movie. This was actually almost like life, so to speak. And I started watching it, and then my mother saw that we all had an interest in it, especially me. So she convinced my father to take me to Madison Square Garden to the shows they used to have every month on a Monday, whatever. And watching WWE live back then, for me was, I guess, very pivotal. Because it made me want to do what they do in the ring. I'm hearing the fans react to everything they do. So being a fan was more like fueling the desire to want to pursue it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I would say this. I was always jealous of the people that had. Cause I'm originally from Michigan, and I don't. There was never events that came up that way.
Oh, okay.
I always had to watch Saturday night's main event or whatever. And so knowing somebody from the Bronx, I guess it's probably pretty simple, pretty easy to get over to Madison Square Garden and watch those events.
Well, I tell you though, it was also I used to watch on TV as well, and so I would switch back from the NWA to WWF, as it was known as at the time, and I noticed there was a difference. But then, at the same time, I was also collecting Lucha Libre magazines, little Mexican wrestling magazines too, and I was exposed to a lot of Mexican wrestling. Not so much Japanese wrestling, but I was exposed a lot to that, and and of course, eventually Japanese wrestling with Tiger Mask and
Right.
the original Tiger Mask, the original Black Tiger, and all these guys, Tenru, Ricky Choshu, and so on. And I mean, I became more than just a fan. When I got into it, it was a friend of mine. But oddly enough, you're probably gonna ask me this question anyway. But a friend of mine in junior high school, his dad was a pro wrestler, and his dad also had a wrestling gym about 4 or 5 blocks from the junior high school I was attending.
Oh wow.
Now, I literally thought, I'm not going to lie to you, I thought it was a rib or some kind of backyardish type of thing where you just have any old ring set up and, conduct yourself as a promoter that you think you are. Turns out it was a legit wrestling gym. It was a stiff ring. The ring was like a boxing gym converted into a wrestling ring. And At the time, that's when I first met Bobby Boldeagle,
Okay.
or Chief White Feather, whoever don't know him. He was trained by Antonino Rocca. He was one of the first guys, along with the Wild Samoan, and Phantasma, and Carlos Colon, and Tonga Kid, and Scott Casey, can't forget him. They were one of the first groups to ever tour the Middle East wrestling. And Lou Thez and Carl Gott was on this very same tour. So my trainer got to train with those guys, and I was like, man, just even train with Lou Thez or Carl Gott is mind blowing as it is. And anywho, so he trained me,
Okay.
but he really didn't train me like, how do you say, like he would have wanted to. I mean, I was just learning the basics for these two female wrestlers and some of the top students and so on, being overlooked. And then a couple of years down the road, I was at a local wrestling gym in Brooklyn wrestling. He winds up sending a message for me because he opened up his own school, the Bobby Boldeagle Wrestling Academy, and called me in. And I got to tell you, I tell people WWE had tough enough many, many years later. But to be in this school, you legit had to be. Amateur wrestling was a very big plus. He encouraged it. He actually had a lot of amateur wrestling drills. You had a lot of guys go through his school. Let me see, you had Billy Fogg, rest in peace, Jason Knight. You had Primo Carnero III, or Big Guido from ECW, Big Guido. He started training there. Brian Donahue from the New York Jets. Oh my gosh, it was the drills. I've never really experienced drills like that. You know, everything was repetition, but he was very big on grappling, super big on grappling. And no matter what size you are, you had to learn how to shoot wrestle. That was one thing he taught. I mean, he'll teach you the English style, lucha libre style, whatever it is you wanted to learn. But amateur wrestling and shoot wrestling was really big for him.
Okay.
You know what I mean? He said, you have to learn that. That is like a necessity. Yeah, you're doing what you're doing out there, but remember the word on the marquee, wrestling. I'm a young kid. I'm like 14, 15 years old, and I'm not going to lie to you, it was super intimidating for me, but I got through it. And then, of course, the Panther name, that came about. Basically, he wrestled as the Black Panther in Mexico, and he used the name a lot of different places, but he decided to bring it to the States. And long story short, he asked me if I wanted the name. I was like, well, sure. He goes, okay, you got to get in the ring with me for it. Now I'm thinking, okay, it's a wrestling match. I should be okay. You know, it's going to be snug. I'm going to be all good. You know, but from the immediate lockup, it wasn't really a lockup. It was basically like Greco-Roman freestyling it. And I was like, oh, right away, 2 seconds into it, I was like, oh, I have no choice but to go through this. And it was basically a shoot wrestling match.
Okay.
And during this whole bid, you know, I'm not going to lie to you, I came out with knots in my face, nose looked like it had just finished bleeding, busted lip. I mean, I looked like I came out of a fight. And I earned the name. And that's actually how I earned the name. It wasn't really given to me. I was treated sort of, well, I know I was personally treated like the way almost he was back in his day, you know, in the 50s and 60s, you know, where wrestling, everything was considered, you know, the kayfabe era, if you want to call it that. You know, if you were not in the, you know, the business, you just happened to walk in the gym. One word gets said, everybody stops what they're doing, and they separate into their own little world or whatever the case is. And, Yeah, I've seen a lot of guys go through that, you know. And during up to this point, by the way, I was meaning to tell you, I trained with a couple of other guys that you might have heard of. I know you heard of them. Frank Williams. He's the one that was famous for being in that Piper's Pit deal.
Yep.
He's from Brooklyn originally, though. He's Puerto Rican from Brooklyn, but
Okay.
and I also trained with Black Gordon. A lot of people know who don't know Black Gordon is. Black Gordon is world-renowned, famous Mexican luchador. Must have wrestled Andre the Giant dozens of times. And
okay.
Yeah, man. So that's pretty much the beginning of my training, more or less.
So
besides being thrown out to the wolves.
So being thrown out to the wolves and knots on your forehead, and was that when you decided, yep, I want to do this forever?
Well, I'm gonna tell you this right now. My thing was up to that point, I was doing these little outlaw shows that were not sanctioned by the State Athletic Commission. My deal was, I just loved being in front of an audience and getting their reaction and doing what I was doing in the ring. Although at the time, I was greener than olive, but after he got a hold of me and, you know, sort of polished me up and retrained me, you know, there's other stuff, the greenness was wearing off for me, where I was helping to train people and stuff. But it's just the fact that with me, my thing is this: I just love being in front of the crowd, because it's a certain high you get when you're in front of an audience and, you know, you're doing what you're doing. And, you know, I sometimes it's hard for me to explain to people, but it is the most amazing feeling in the world. Literally the most amazing feeling in the world. And I got to tell you, when I was in high school, I partied, I'll admit, drank, smoked, whatever. You know, I'm not afraid to admit that. I mean, what teenager hasn't, whatever. Well, going to South Bronx High School, you'd understand. But wrestling is probably the greatest high I think anybody would ever or can ever experience. The feeling you get when you're in gorilla position, which for the people that don't know what gorilla position means, and where it came from, Gorilla Monsoon, when I was there, or Mr. Morella, depending what you want to call him. You know, he had a son that refereed, Joey Morella. He passed away many years ago. And he refereed my match with Kamala, speaking about that. And I'll never forget it. He had a table set up about 20 to 30 feet behind the first curtain you go through. And before you go through that curtain, you got to go through him. I mean, you just cannot not pass him going to the curtain. So, you know, he made sure that everything was right, and, you know, you could do cue you and point you to go, whatever the case is. That automatically became the gorilla position. And that's where the term comes from.
Okay.
So my point is that, you know, being in gorilla position and hearing your music or getting your cue and you're going out there, you know, and in this particular case in Canada, when Gorilla Monsoon, it's a go. I'll never forget it, man. Joey Morello led first and kept going first, and I was about a good 30, 40 feet behind Joey Morello. And I really didn't realize how many people were in the crowd. If anybody ever looks at that match, in the beginning, I was sort of like, you know, bouncing off the ropes a little bit, shaking my arms, because I wound up looking up around me and I was like, oh man, this place is jammed. And at this point, this is my first time in an arena. Not my first time wrestling in front of a large crowd, but this was more than a large crowd. This is a freaking a coliseum of sorts. And you'll see me shaking my arms, being super nervous. And a lot of people asked me, well, how the hell did I get through it? So, well, one, I had no choice. Two, I didn't even see Kamala till I got to the ring. And literally, I never had gone up to that point till I got in the ring. Harvey Whippleman, or Downtown Bruno, whatever you want to call him, didn't see until I got in the ring. Kimchi at the time, I believe that was Steve Lombardi who was being Kimchi at the time.
Okay.
And I saw him like maybe once for like no more than less than 10 minutes. After that, that was it. When it came time for me to wrestle, that was it. I mean, that was it. You know, that was just, I ain't gonna lie to you though, I was nervous. I mean, my testicles were towards my ankles. I was like, you know, I didn't realize up to that point that it wasn't so much that I was going live because I wasn't. But when I realized the magnitude of that tape, and I was like, oh, shoot, all that happened within a span of me going through the current till I hit the ring. Because once I hit the ring, I said to myself, you can't back out now because you got a locker room full of dudes who could bend you into a pretzel. I mean, these dudes were giants. You know, you got Bret Hart walking around, DiBiase, Mike Rotunda, the Road Warriors, God bless their soul, the Nasty Boys, the Beverly Brothers, Ultimate Warrior, Undertaker. Oh man, you had all these freaking. I mean, you had everybody, their mama, and Rick Martel, and you know, a lot of the Tito Santana, Arnold Skolin, Lanny Poffo, Macho Man, Steve Kern. I mean, you had all these guys, though, and you know, you do one wrong thing, anybody there, and they don't really have to, but if they wanted to take liberties with you, they would have. But my thing was, my attitude kind of stuck. I was a little cocky teenager. I figured when I was doing the little indie stuff, I was like a big fish in a small pond. Here, I was a little fish in a freaking ocean. If that makes any sense to
Right.
you, you know.
So were they those guys? You're that little fish. Did they respect you, or were you just a fill-in that they got no respect?
No, back then, I guess it was like almost like the ending of an era. What I mean by ending of an era was back then it was like they treated a lot of them treated certain enhancement talent like second class citizens. Um, my thing was I did behave properly. Don't get me wrong, but the second night, um, I believe it was one of the Nasty Boys sent me to go get Tito Santana to play cards because Jack Tunney, Otto Skolin, Lanny Poffo, all these guys was playing cards, and it was cool though because I got to trade Mama Joe to Lanny Poffo. That was awesome. But no, but you know, I got to tell you, I told the one with the black hair, I think it's Jerry Sags.
Yeah.
I told him, go get him yourself. You know, I was getting dressed and stuff. I wasn't going to stop what I was doing. But in retrospect, I said to myself, I just told one of their superstars to go get another superstar themselves, knowing full well I ain't got no clout of any kind. I realized I made a mistake. About a half hour later, 40 minutes later, I go up to the board. You know, the matches and the shows are broken up into hour brackets. And I looked for my name. I saw my name. I was like, okay. And I was in a tag team with a friend of mine, thank God, against the Nasty Boys. Now, the Nasty Boys don't know who they're wrestling in this particular hour bracket. Up to this point, I'm thinking, I hope I don't ever run into these guys because they're going to kick my ass. They're looking for John Blade and Jason Speed. When they found out it was me, oh, man. That was like the ultimate. Yeah, man.
Go get it yourself,
like,
right?
Man. Oh, they beat the brakes off of me. We're talking. Let me tell you something. I wasn't really. Let's just say, I didn't cooperate as much as I should have in that match, And I got to tell you, I suffered bad for. I mean, almost got my jaw dislocated. Everything. You can literally see me popping in my jaw and everything else in the match. And oh, it was crazy, dude.
Wow.
The only other time I got really stiff bad was by Sensational Sherry. He was
Really?
managing Shane. Yeah, she was managing Shane Douglas and Mr. Hughes.
Yeah.
This was that Eastern Championship Wrestling when they was part of the NWA.
Okay.
A couple of months before they became Extreme, and she slapped the taste out of. I mean, she slapped the bejesus out of me. Don't get me wrong. In the locker room, you know, she caressed my face. She goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." And, you know, she was so sweet and apologetic. Beautiful, beautiful person. God bless her soul. But yeah, I would say that she's the only one that's ever done that to me. I wasn't gonna tell her nothing, but you know, that old Eastern Championship Wrestling experience was a whole other ball game. Thanks to Jason Knight for that one. Jason Knight, he hooked me up really good with that booking. I wrestled 3 times that very same night. I must have came home feeling like I got ran over by a truck. Between Chaz, Shane Douglas, and Mr. Hughes, and this tag team called the Bruise Brothers. Don't know if you ever heard of them or not. They look like they're twins. They used to wrestle as part of the Disciples of Apocalypse.
Okay, yeah.
The Harris brothers, Eli and Jacob Blue, those guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrestled them. First time I ever got thrown through a table. And I wrestled those 3 guys that same night. And I was like, it was on the network, but being that Peacock took over the network, a lot of stuff got scrapped in the network.
That's what we've
You
been
can't
hearing.
just go to any you can't just go to any ECW show and pick out whatever date or match or show you want to watch. It's whatever content is on the network, because there was some stuff on the network that the network had that I wouldn't even let a little kid watch. I mean, ECW had some wild stuff, man. But
I've heard some
yeah,
wild.
yeah.
I've heard some wild and crazy stories
up,
from ECW, man.
Oh man, I got a bunch of stories. I mean, I remember one time I was changing, and I noticed through my peripheral somebody was sitting next to me, sat down next to me. Now, I didn't question who sat down next to me because I saw the boots. The minute I saw the boot, I looked up, and Jimmy Snooker's right next to me changing, and he asked me if I minded. I was like, mind? Shoot, you can have my space too. I mean, I'm going to tell him, all right, dude, get up. You're in my spot. Yeah. Oh, I ain't going to tell him that. That was a good ECW experience. A lot of guys there that were on the up and coming ladder, if you will, for lack of a better term. You had a guy who wrestled as Damian Stone. He went on to become Little Guido, and Bubba Ray Dudley wasn't there quite just yet.
Okay.
But he was on his way. I believe Devon was there first before he was.
Okay.
Tommy Dreamer was around. You had Road Warrior Hawk, Shane Hughes, Sherry, Mikey Whipwreck. You had a who's who of talent, and you know the atmosphere there was just a little weird,
right?
Even for me, because you know here's Paul Heyman. I already knew who Paulie Dangerously was, but I didn't realize that there was something brewing there. You could literally feel it. These guys were there because they knew deep in their hearts that this was going to become bigger than what, you know, they had anticipated it to be. I wish I would have been around for that explosion. Oh, man.
Right.
You
you ever want to get back in the ring? Are you just, is that in the past?
I don't know. I'm still wrestling. I had a show. About less than 2 weeks ago. I was in Nashville, wrestling for a lucha company. Well, the promoter, I've known him for years. I wrestled for him back in 2016, 2017. His father, Kato Kung Lee, his dad was famous all over Japan and Mexico. Strangely enough, I don't know why he chose Tennessee for his homestead, but his wife was a professional wrestler, came out in movies in Mexico, and I did a show for him where the main event, the headliner was super crazy. He's having a show April 30th. I'm on the May show, but the show April 30th is going to have Me Muertes. It's super crazy headlining the card. Other than that, nah, man, I'm still wrestling. I got to tell you, my style has been more grounded, where I'm doing more lucha and grappling and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm still wrestling, dude. I haven't stopped. I mean, I wish I could wrestle 4 or 5 days a week, but you know, my thing is, the day that happens, I'll be one blessed man. But yeah, man, I wrestled a couple of weeks ago.
Awesome, man.
So far, what I'm trying to do is get more Florida shows. I did a show in Florida a while back, a couple of months back. I wrestled for a friend of mine, Tony, for the NAWA, who they're going through their own, you know, copyright deal because there's another company with the same letters. And he had a show at the Ocean Center in Daytona Beach.
Okay, yeah,
the Ocean Center.
I heard about that.
The Ocean Center, that's the same place where Hulk Hogan first turned into the NWO.
Yep.
Where he turned on Macho Man, same arena.
One of my favorite parts of wrestling, man.
That's what happens to be a lot of people's favorite parts, believe it or not. But,
check up there, man. Right there.
So like I said, my thing is, I when I'm not in the gym training, I'm mostly doing a lot of studying wrestling wise. I look at so many different matches. I employ people to study matches. Don't just, go to the gym and train, because wrestling to me is more like 25% physical, but 75 to 80% mental.
Wow.
Because there is a lot that a lot of people don't consider when you watch a wrestling match. Now, I'm not talking about rehearsing and none of that other stuff, because I sure don't do that. But me personally, I don't. But, the stuff that you got to go through to even get in there. And then it's not like a movie where you got 1,000 different takes. You got that one time, and that's it. You cannot just, retake it and retake. You can't do that. And you're out there doing what you're doing. And this goes back to what I said earlier, because it's almost like chasing that high. Because when you go out there, you're doing it for the people, yes. And you're doing it for yourself, almost like in a selfish kind of way. But how do I say this? It goes back to wanting to chase that high you got, where you got good reviews, or people applauded your match, or they tell you great job, or so on. One time, let me give you an example. I was wrestling for NWA Main Event Wrestling in Nashville for a promoter named Mike Porter, God bless his soul. And I look from the back of the stage area, I'm looking at this, man, that guy looks very familiar. It turned out it was Jerry Jarrett. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I got to beat this man, but damn it, I got to wrestle. So I wrestled, did what I had to do. During intermission, where you had a lot of the meet and greets happening, I went up to Jerry Jarrett. When that man told me that the response from the crowd is all he needed to know if the match went good or not, and he complimented me, did not have one negative thing to say, no constructive criticism, I was blown away. I was like, Jerry Jarrett actually enjoyed watching what I did in there.
That's awesome.
That to me was huge, you know. So it all ties in together with, you know, the admiration from the crowd, your peers, knowing full well that 100 years ago, you had matches taking place. I mean, hell, our very own president of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, was a shoot wrestler. You know, he was Illinois state champion, and he did a lot of trash talking of what you would consider a shoot promo against anybody that he would go against him, literally. He had his own catchphrases and stuff like that, and not very many people know that.
Right, no, I didn't know that at all.
No, very true story. Look it up, Abraham Lincoln.
All right, I will.
It kind of like, it was awesome, dude. Abraham Lincoln, and a lot of people also don't know that, you know, the one thing I got to say, and I'm only going to say this before you get to any of your questions, and if anybody's watching this, I always say, learn your history. It's sad that a lot of these young guys don't know who Luthez is, don't know who Ed the Strangler Lewis is, or George Hackenschmidt, Frank Gotch, you know, Stu Hart in his early days, Herb Welch, you know, guys like that. And it's just sad that they don't know who these people are. And I always tell them, study them, because they're the ones who helped pave the way for what we do today, so to speak. Although I would imagine guys like Luthez and Ed Lewis is turning over in their graves if they saw what they see now. But that's
yeah, I'm probably pretty sure you're right. So you pretty much answered a lot of my questions in that. What you just said. I work with kids, and one of the things that they asked me was, "That's got to be fake, Mr. Scott. That's got to be fake." Well, I need to be able to tell them that. Fake is too strong a word. Huh?
Fake is too strong of a word to describe that.
Okay.
You know, I always tell people you can't fake getting hit by a chair. You can try to block it, but you're still getting hit. You never land the same all the time in the ring. And I don't think the floor bounces when you land out there getting thrown over the top, or getting slammed or suplexed, or going through a table, or anything of that nature. We do get injured. So if it was fake, let's look up the word fake. Fake means it doesn't exist. It's not real. Everybody knows that. It's quite obvious.
Right.
To call professional wrestling completely fake, no.
Okay.
Some of it, I'm going to say some of it is predetermined, you know, for financial reasons, if you know the promoting business. Some of it is predetermined, but call it fake? No, man. Fake's too strong of a word.
Awesome.
It's way too strong of a word for wrestling.
What would be what would you say is your huge pop moment, like the biggest moment in your career?
Wow, biggest moment. Well, I gotta tell you, I have a few, but if I had to like narrow it down, I'll probably narrow it down to three. One of them, obviously, wrestling Kamala at the Victor Cobbs Coliseum in Hamilton, Ontario, where I believe there was Wrestling Superstars. Might have been Wrestling Superstars or Wrestling Challenge. Another one was I got to wrestle my trainer as the Black Tiger. Well, he was the Black Tiger because he used to wrestle a lot with the original Black Tiger in England. And they became really good friends, and it came to a point where sometimes there were certain dates that Mark Rollerball Rocco couldn't fill. So he would have my trainer go in as the Black Tiger because they had very similar in-ring moves that, if you want to call it that, very similar styles. But I got to wrestle him at an outside show, and that was, for me, that was huge because I was wrestling under the mask, Black Panther, and he could have chose anybody to wrestle, but I was literally handpicked for that.
Awesome.
So that was pretty awesome. Another one would be, let's see here. Well, I could say wrestling my brother because that was awesome. I can also say wrestling my friend Vinny, who wrestled as the Shark Attack Kid. But like I said, there's so many. But if I had to pick a third one, it would probably be when I first went to North Carolina, and I wrestled twice. I wrestled as the Black Panther. I wrestled also as Thunderfoot 3. But what made that so special was that in the locker room, I was under the same card as Wahoo McDaniel and Ivan Koloff. So that to me was like amazing. I mean, Wahoo McDaniel, and Ivan Koloff. That would pretty much answer that question. I mean,
Yeah.
There's a lot more than that, though. I mean, I could name a bunch, but those are some of the ones that stood out to me.
Awesome. So I have to ask you this question. Tell me about the ribs or pranks you guys would pull on each other during the trainings or in the locker room.
Oh, man. Oh, okay.
I spoke to one. I spoke to one of your friends, man. That's all I had. He goes, ask him this question. So I said, okay, I will.
Who did you speak to?
Lou Reardon.
Oh, okay. I wrestled for Lou actually.
Yeah.
Lou had a company. Yeah, he had a company called Eastern Shores Wrestling.
Yeah.
He had a who's who of people in that company. He had Bundy, 911, Bam Bam Bigelow, Primetime Brian Lee, Jimmy Snuka, the Wild Samoans, Alofa, or Lloyd, however you want to call him. He had oh my God, he had a who's who. Devin Storm, Steve Carino. Anyway, as far as ribs go, let's see here. Oh boy. Well, there was one time, I'll never forget this, and thank God it didn't happen to me. But I've seen it happen where they took one of these dudes' underwears and they put a lot of Bengay on it. I mean, enough Bengay you would think it'd be oversaturated and wet. But it was hot outside. It was an outside show, so it kind of like dried up a bit. And we put baby pot on it, so the smell of the Bengay won't be as horrific, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And when the dude finished wrestling, I guess, we really didn't shower. We just wiped off and, take an alcohol bath, if you will, and put it on. He just happened to take an alcohol bath and threw those underwears on. His balls were on fire.
Oh, no.
Oh, my gosh. As soon as I heard him yell, I was laughing my ass off because I already knew why he was yelling. His balls were toasted. I mean, that was one rib that I'll never forget. I've seen some ribs where guys get their clothes taken, wedgies, even ribs done in the ring.
Really?
And those are the worst ones, only because sometimes you don't know if it's a rib or not. And it turns out it is a rib. And you gotta go along with it because you're in front of a crowd. You cannot just break character and decide to okay, I'm gonna get this guy back.
Right.
One time I was cutting a promo in the ring. Oh, actually, I didn't cut the promo. The wrestler, I was wrestling against the son of a Hall of Famer, Gary Valiant, the Boogie Woogie Boy.
Okay.
Phenomenal guy. His dad, obviously, his dad. The Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant. And So he's cutting the promo. When he hands me the mic, he hands it to me super hard, but gives me a nut shot with the mic at the same time. So really, to the crowd, reality, the way he handed me the mic was pretty much like a ball shot.
Wow.
So my balls were, I think, 25, 30,000 people. That stadium was freaking packed, top to bottom. And to wrestle in front of a crowd, it goes back to what I was saying. You know, the level of intensity, what you do in there changes. And you can tell the difference between them wrestling in front of a crowd as opposed to wrestling in front of a, you know, no crowd. You know,
right. And as a fan, as I was watching it last night, it made a difference for me as a fan because you were like, oh my god. And that match with Sasha Banks and Bianca, that was, I would say it's probably my favorite match of the night. And they performed. I mean, that smack that Sasha took with that hair, that was loud, and it was like, holy cow. And you could just tell the difference. I was talking to my brother. I hope that they'll open up the arenas for crowds after, even on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, because it just makes a difference watching it. So I can't imagine, as a fan watching, I get excited about it. I can't imagine how pumped up you guys got, as you know, in ECW or NAWA or wherever, all these places that you went, even on the indie circuit in Nashville or whatever you do now. That's got to be amazing, an amazing rush.
Yes, it is. Oh, it is so good, man. Let me tell you, I was watching old WrestleMania, The Rock versus Hulk Hogan, and people ask me, why do I want to watch that? Simply put, those guys had no idea what was going to go on until they got in the ring. Hulk Hogan didn't know he was going to get cheered that way.
No.
You know, Rock didn't realize he was going to get booed that way. You know, I tell a lot of people that it's you got to take it into consideration, and it goes back to what I was saying. You know, it all ties in. You know, being in front of a large crowd and getting their reaction, knowing full well every move you make, they're legitimately watching you, and they see what you're doing, because they're gonna go home and recite or repeat or talk about what you did.
Yep.
For like days and months to come. You know what I mean?
Yep. I mean, I did it. I mean, with my brother, even we watched Saturday night's main event with Sid Vicious, and when he did the power bombs, you know, and as kids growing up, I remember hoisting my brother up and power bombing him onto the bed, you know, and we broke a light fixture upstairs in my mom and dad's house, and but you know, you mimic all that stuff, you know, and you know, to watch Bianca in the ring last night, bawling her eyes out even before the match started. That was just, you know, that's not fake, man. She's like, oh crap, she didn't expect that. You know, it's just
before the match. Here's the thing. Well, one, her parents and her family were in the crowd.
Yeah.
But she knew more or less what was going to go down. What it took to get there was what pretty much had her going that way. You know, it's an emotional night. I could imagine in the back, she must have received an applause like there's no tomorrow. And I know her work was definitely appreciated. I'm gonna tell you that.
Right. So Bad Bunny, man, that was I seen your video today. You mentioned Bad Bunny being a great musician and stuff. I don't know much about his music, but dude, he was impressive.
Well, I gotta tell you, I honestly thought he did good considering the amount of training he had. The training definitely is not easy. So for him to make that transition, you know, it kind of like blew me away.
Right.
A lot of people didn't like it because, you know, a lot of these guys, they go through the indie circuit and they go through hell to even try to get a spot with WWE. Meanwhile, because this guy is a humongous Grammy award-winning guy,
Right.
you're thinking like, what the hell? How the hell did he get a spot? But meanwhile, I've been busting my ass for 10, 15 years, but I thought he did all right. I really did.
Right.
I mean, it could have been a lot worse.
Well, I got a couple more questions, and I was going to run down tonight's card with you. I see on your Facebook stuff that you are your involvement in the UWLA. Can you share with us briefly your involvement there?
Well, I basically wrestle for him. It's a lucha libre company. It's a Mexican style company. I had nothing but great experiences with him because this guy here, he had everybody in their mama, from La Parca to all these big names coming through from Mexico, super crazy, and Máscara Sagrada, Máscara Sagrita, so it's a great experience. He gives you a lot of creative freedom. But UWLA, awesome company, awesome. Anybody that can find their way to their show, go for it because they are worth the trip.
Okay.
They on some hellacious shows, man.
How about NAWA? You still affiliated with them?
Yes, I am. They're on a hiatus right now, but I've been dealing with them since the late '90s. And yes, I am still in NAWA. I ain't got no bad thing to report about them either, believe it or not. So far, so good. I mean, if there was anything negative to say, believe you me, I'd say it. I wouldn't hesitate. But so far, so good with NAWA.
Awesome. And earlier you mentioned you were reading an article in a New York Newsday today, in 1989. Would you like to share briefly about that? You said you wanted to elaborate on that.
Yes. All right. Bobby Bold Eagle's Gym had just been out about a year up to this point, or close to it. And New York Newsday, which is a big newspaper publication, decided that they wanted to do an article on the school. And all these photographers were there and stuff, and I legit was fixing my mask, and he took a picture of me doing that, and me doing a German, and the interview, it was basically on Bobby Bold Eagle's history, where he came from, his style of wrestling, and what he wanted out of his students. And everybody, I myself got interviewed, and on why I want to become a wrestler, things like that, normal everyday questions. It was awesome. It was my first major coverage for wrestling, literally. It was awesome. I got the newspaper in the living room. It was awesome.
Awesome. Who's your superhero wrestler of all time? Do you have a favorite? Do you have a
Wow. Wow. Oh boy.
the man you got to meet?
Wow.
The guy you have to meet.
I can't mention one name. It would have to be a few.
Okay.
My trainer, of course, believe it or not, I'm a little biased on that, but if you've seen him wrestle the way I have, you'd understand.
Okay.
My trainer for one, Bobby Bold Eagle, Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat. Who else? Shoot. Raging Bull, Manny Fernandez, Pedro Morales, Bruiser Brody, Terry Funk.
Yep.
The Headhunters. I mean, I can name a bunch of guys, but those are the guys that I enjoy watching so much.
My favorite is I have to say my favorite is Sting. I love Sting. I love what he's doing in AEW. I love what he did.
Oh, Sting's awesome. Yeah, yeah.
I'd love the opportunity to meet the guy one day, but we'll see.
Oh, you will. I'm sure you will.
We'll see what happens there. So, yeah, that'd be my all-time favorite, of course, and I'm a big NWO fan. So, so do you ever get a chance to meet Rey Mysterio?
Almost. but never got to meet him.
All right, awesome. So before we go, my kids always ask these crazy questions, and then I'll ask those crazy questions they asked, and I'll ask. We'll talk about WrestleMania, then we'll close up. I gotta head up front to feed them dinner. So here's some crazy questions from them. Favorite type of music?
Well, I grew up on rap music, but I don't just hear any rappers. I have my top 10 MCs that I hear. Right. One of them I grew up with, but rap music more or less. Rap, old disco, old R&B, you know, the classics, if you will.
Who's your top rap artist?
Oh, man. Shoot. I'm going to name my top 10 super quick.
All right, go.
Coogee Rap, KRS-One. Coogee Rap, KRS-One, Rakim. Big Pun, Big L, Eminem, Nas, Redman, Ice Cube, just to name a few.
KRS-One, man, I love him. Love them.
Oh, yeah. KRS-One is off.
I used to listen to that in high school. So, favorite food?
Whoa.
These are kids.
Well, I love any. I mean, I don't know. That's hard to say. But if I had my pick, it would probably be that General Tso chicken.
All right.
You know that General Tso chicken? That's man, that's a Chinese deal. Oh, it's freaking awesome.
Favorite movie?
Oh, that's easy. Rocky 2.
Okay. Favorite TV show?
Oh, that's hard to say, but if I had to pick favorite TV show, I mean, there's a bunch that I could literally say, but I would have to say the 70s show.
All right. Yeah. Awesome, man. Appreciate your time. Let's quickly go down. Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, Edge, Daniel Bryan. Who wins?
That's hard to say because the way Roman Reigns is being pushed, you would think it would be Edge, but I'd probably wind up saying on this one, it's going to be out of Daniel Bryan and Edge because, you know, Bobby Lashley just beat, of course, Drew McIntyre.
Right.
And that in itself, Bobby Lashley's a beast.
Yeah.
Now, can you have two major beasts controlling the WWE like that in terms of belts? I don't think so, but let's see what happens.
Well, what would they do with Roman Reigns if he lost the belt, though? That's my thing. I mean, I get it. Let's put it on Daniel Bryan or Edge, but what they've done.
I think Roman Reigns, for the most part, not to cut you off, but Roman Reigns, I think as a heel, he is freaking phenomenal.
Yeah.
But that would give Roman Reigns a shot. Why don't they put him on a program with Bobby Lashley or put him to Raw where he goes for the heavyweight title?
Yeah.
Or eventually have him go turn good because now that you got people hating his guts, that'd be a perfect time for him to turn good where he humbles himself, realizing that he's not the actual head of the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oscar Rhea Ripley.
Oscar Rhea Ripley. Oh, wow. With all the hype, I would say Rhea Ripley because you cannot just bring her into a major pay-per-view and not expect her to, you know, go all out. You can't make much of an impact if you don't win, so
yeah, true.
I'd probably go for Rhea Ripley on that one.
I hope Becky Lynch shows up at the end of that. That'd be sweet. That'd be sick. So, anyways, that's my opinion. Big E versus Apollo Crews.
Who? Damn. I want to say Apollo Crews, but I'm going for Big E on that one.
All right, I have Big E too. This match I could care less about, but Riddle versus Sheamus.
I'd probably go for Matt Riddle on that one.
Okay. Nia Jax, Oh My Hole, and Shayna Baszler versus Tamina and Natalia.
Oh my hole. That is funny. Dude, that was good. That was good. It really was, look, I know where you got that from.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
That was probably the most funniest thing I've ever heard.
yes, I'd probably go for Tamina and Natalia on that one.
All right, cool. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn.
Oh, that's Kevin Owens. I'll give Kevin Owens that one.
Then I pray to God this is the end of this. Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton.
You know, I feel the same way. I think this is ridiculous. But if I had to put my money on something, it would have to be, you know what? I probably would have to give that to, I'd probably go for Randy Orton on this one.
I'd like to see that. So, Panther, I appreciate your time. Real quick, either could cut a promo for me on this, or we can say adieu and we'll talk later. How you feeling? What you feeling? What you feeling, man?
I mean, how do I feel?
Yeah, I mean, what you got? How you want to close this out, man? Anybody
Okay,
want to?
here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say this real quick. The 23rd of this month, I'm at Coastal Championship Wrestling, making my debut in Pompano Beach. Coastal Championship Wrestling happens to be one of the premier companies in Florida, let alone Central Florida. I get to wrestle for them the 23rd, so that's going to be awesome. Also, to the guys out there watching this, if you're a wrestler, do your homework, study the history. Very important. Know who's who, where they came from, who paved the way for you. And to the average fans out there, you know, respect what these guys do, because these guys are putting their bodies on the line, not only for themselves, but more so to entertain you guys, to make sure you guys go home with a beautiful memory and a sensation of saying, well, you know what, that was the so-and-so amount of money well spent. But more importantly, the 23rd, this month, Coastal Championship Wrestling, Pompano Beach. I'm going to be there represented. And I hope to see all you guys there. I really do.
Stay safe, man.
All right, brother, man.
Stay safe. Thanks, man.
All right, bro.
All right, man. We're out. Thanks a lot for the Panther Rodriguez. You're gone.